Hi everyone, this is Jo, the Community Engagement Officer for Naturehood in Swindon, and today I'll be showing you around my wildlife-friendly garden. But before I start, a little bit of introduction about what Naturehood is all about, for those of you who are new to Naturehood. It's a community wildlife project delivered by Earthwatch Europe, and in the area where I sort of operate, in Wiltshire and Swindon, it's delivered in partnership with Wiltshire Wildlife Trust. And what it's all about, it's about encouraging communities and individuals to act positively for wildlife in the gardens, the green spaces, whatever they've got, even if they don't have gardens, balconies, window boxes, patios, because any outdoor space has a potential to support wildlife. And if you haven't joined yet, you can join Naturehood. It's completely free to join. It's a project funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. Completely free to join, and you can do so on www.naturehood.uk. And for the last 3 weeks, our team members, since we started the lockdown, I don't really like that word, the stay-at-home time, our lovely Naturehood team members have been doing live stream videos or videos if the internet connection doesn't allow them, same as me, unfortunately. They have been inviting you to their green spaces, their outdoor spaces, to show you a little bit of what can be done in different gardens, different spaces, and just to prove that anyone really, depending on despite circumstances and limitations they might have, anyone can do something to support wildlife. So a couple of weeks ago we had James inviting you to his wildlife-friendly garden in an urban Oxford. And also a week ago we had Ben showing you around his family wildlife-friendly garden, slightly different things that boys were doing, but again, really good stuff that they were doing for wildlife. If you want to catch up with these videos, you can see them on our Naturehood YouTube channels. So that's about Naturehood and why we've been doing these videos. This should be a live stream as well, however I live in a quite remote village. So it just didn't work. I kept getting cut off, so I decided it needs to be a normal video. If you just bear with me, I'm going to grab my camera. Here we go. So a little bit about my space and what I've got to play with. Very lucky that we're in a lovely open countryside, as you can see. Sun's shining today. It's absolutely lovely to be at the decking, on a decking. A little bit about the space I've got, because it isn't the whole space I've got here. I'm not that lucky. So my garden is the one between the bird feeders on the left, and then there is another path on the right, which is another boundary around where the barbecue is. So that long strip just in front of me. And it's quite unusual. The reason why the gardens are not fenced off is because historically it used to be a railway terrace. This is a railway terrace, so it's accommodation for people that used to work at the railway. The cottage is a couple of 100 years old. And the way the land was divided, it's quite strange, because we are lucky that we have our back garden directly adjacent to our house. But other neighbours, it's all a bit mixed. So for example, this garden on the left, this sort of small allotment, doesn't belong to my garden, my neighbour on the left. It belongs to a neighbour a couple of doors down this way. So we basically have this shared path that all neighbours can access. That's why we choose not to have it fenced off. And I wasn't sure how I felt about it when we first moved in, but I really like it now. First, it provides this really great sense of openness. It feels really lovely in terms of being able to see the countryside, see each other. We've got a lovely community here. And also a lot of us do wildlife-friendly things, so our neighbours are also wildlife lovers and provide food for birds and a range of plants for pollinating insects. Our neighbours here, they provide basically lots of they basically grow vegetables organically, but they've got some flowering things at the back of the garden, some flowering herbs as well. So I would like to think as a collective we are providing pretty good habitat, and I quite like the gardens not being fenced off, because that means wildlife can access it easily. We've got a family of badgers coming in every night, and they can do it easily. If we did have hedgehogs would roam about these gardens freely. Right, okay. First, I'll show you a little bit of history about how this garden changed over from a sort of gravel pit, I called it, when we first moved in here 2.5 years ago. Unfortunately, the garden was just a gravel pit with a shed at the end and a couple of raised beds. And this wasn't because the people that lived here before didn't like wildlife. They did. They're quite elderly and not very well, so they just wanted something really easy to maintain, and laying gravel made sure that they could do that. They didn't have to mow it alone or do any weeding or anything like that. But when we moved in, we decided, okay, we are younger, we can provide more vegetation, more shelter for wildlife, and we decided we're going to do it gradually because we're on a low budget. And in the meantime, I also joined the Naturehood team, and I decided I need to practice what I preach. And I basically decided that I want all the wildlife friendly actions that we encourage people to implement in their gardens here in my garden as well. I think I've managed to have not all of them, 8 out of 9. Basically, we can't have a flower-rich lawn here. Just, it would be too big of a job. We haven't got a budget for it to take the gravel off, put the topsoil back on and lay turf or grass seeds. But we decided instead we're going to provide lots of different vegetation. So, okay, I'm going to show you my wildlife housing first. So as you can see, there's a little lovely bug house, a bee house that was given to us for Christmas last year, and I'm pleased to say that in the last week it has been occupied finally. You can see a little plug. I don't know if you can see that. This basically indicates that there are some mason bees there moving in. I don't think it's sunny enough for them to become active again, but they were really active last night. It was a sunny afternoon. And I know these are mason bees living there. However, I don't know what mason bees yet. I'm going to figure it out. And I'm very, very pleased this is occupied. You can see that this is just above our back door. And you're probably wondering why I'm not nervous having bees this close to my house. However, these are mason bees, excellent pollinators, and then completely harmless. Males don't even have a sting, and females will sting you only if you really threaten them. For example, if you squash them between your fingers. And over there we've got a bird box that we put in about 3 weeks ago, and then within the first week it was moved in and occupied by a lovely blue tit. If we're lucky, we might see her. I've seen her this morning, but potentially I'm probably a little bit too loud at the moment. But it just proves the point that if you do provide housing, wildlife will come and it will take the opportunity and will move in. Over there we've got a bat box. Lovely little bat box. I don't know if it's being used at the moment. However, I sat here 3 or 4 nights ago when there was a full moon, because it was lovely and bright still, and I could see bats flying around very close to my face. It was great fun. So I believe that this box is occupied, and if I see more evidence I will put a few more up. So here we've got our sitting area and a couple of planters, sort of long planters. For the last 2 years they had some violas in them, but now they are done flowering. They looked quite weak after this winter, so I decided I'm going to put some fresh flowers in there. We can't be too fussy this year because garden centre's being closed, so I'm planting lots of things indoors from seed what I could get hold of. And also I was lucky that my neighbour was selling some plants over the fence, probably from the shop he had to shut down over stay-at-home period. I've got some verbenas and some petunias. Lucky they're really good for pollinating insects, so I'll be planting these in a week or so when there is no more danger of frost. And also this lovely mini meadow mix was given to me as a present as well, so this will be going into some flower beds in the garden as well. But I really wanted to show you is this grape hyacinth. It's almost done flowering, so it's not looking very pretty, but it looked beautiful since early February. Very early emerging flower, and it's absolutely loved by bees. So one of the first food sources for pollinating insects that are emerging from hibernation. I really recommend buying this because it's pretty much fail-proof. If you plant these little bulbs in October, November, they're almost guaranteed to come up. And they provide lots of colour in your garden. lots of food for pollinating insects, and they'll come back every year. What I'm going to do when they finish flowering, I'm going to cut them short and leave the bulbs, and all the flowers that I'm going to plant over will plant over it, or you can also take the bulbs out and put them in again in October, November. Right, that's it for the decking. As you can see, there's lots of pots ready. These pots are not for flowers, these are for chilies and for tomatoes. We haven't got a greenhouse, but we like to grow tomatoes and chilies on a patio because it's quite sunny, and we've been quite successful for the last 2 years. But another thing I wanted to show you, we've got some dwarf fruiting trees that flower every spring. They won't grow bigger than a meter. These two are cherries, I believe. They haven't fruited, but they probably will this year. But what they do in spring, they flower, and again, that's really, really good food source for pollinating insects. Some more flowers here, Nemesia and dragon snaps, they flower early as well, so really recommended for wildlife friendly garden. And here we've got our herb bed. So we've got a rosemary, tastes great on roast potatoes, as you probably know, but also flowers, provides food for early emerging pollinators. We've got some thyme that will flower later in the year, and some oregano, great for cooking but also great for pollinating insects. And here another bed, as it's early in the year, it's spring, looking quite bare, but it's got some tulips coming up and some early flowering bulbs. But the plans I've got for this bed, once these are finished flowering, I'll be putting some cosmos, some some salvia, some scabious, and some nigella love in the mist here. I've got the view I've got for this to be like nice pink purple colours, so this will be lovely and bushy in a couple of months time, maybe even earlier. I'm hoping to invite you again to my garden in June and July so you can see when everything is in bloom. Here we've got another flower bed. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice slightly. This again doesn't look very impressive at the moment, but it will in literally a few weeks time. It's quite established bed, so there's new calendula flowers and some new cornflowers coming up, and this is a lupin from last year that flowers every year, grows about 1 meter high. So this is quite lush, bushy, orange, blue and purple flower bed that starts getting quite colourful in May. There's a strawberry plant that planted itself there. So I'm going to leave it there because it looks quite happy. This is another flower bed, looking quite bare, but again it won't be in a few weeks time. This is a bed that my husband made from reclaimed wood. Everything we've done in the garden really it's done at low cost budget of whatever we could get hold of and whatever we could plant from seed. It's got some daffodils at the moment. They don't do a massive deal for the pollinating insects, but they look pretty, and I wanted to brighten up that bed before I plant other things in there. So the plan for it is to have lots of echinacea, cornflowers, some more dragon snaps, some more lupins, and any gaps will be filled with sort of native meadow flowers here as well, to provide a range of food for the pollinators. Some more grape hyacinths here, and this is a tree that I really wanted to show you because it's my favourite in the garden. Really pretty, cascading, and again it's a dwarf variety, so won't grow very tall, much taller than this at all. It's a pussy willow, and basically what I love about it is because early in February even, it produces these lovely male catkins. It's finishing to do so now, and it's now growing leaves. But very early in spring it provides basically loads of these male catkins that bees, especially the really early emerging ones, absolutely love. Very nutritious food for the pollinators, and it looks gorgeous. And then later in the year, when it's got leaves, it's a host for a wide range of different basically moths for butterflies and bees. So really, really important tree in a wildlife friendly garden, a pussy willow. You can get them online, you can get them in a garden centre, and they also show up in supermarkets around Mother's Day time. So yeah, really recommend it. Some more dwarf fruit trees here, looking quite bare at the moment, but they will flower hopefully soon. And here we've got some bird feeders. Anyone really can put up bird feeders, but if you do, make sure you put up some water as well, and that you put some pebbles and some marbles, so butterflies and bees and other insects can have a drink as well. And if you do feed birds, please make sure that you clean the feeders regularly so you avoid spreading diseases. Some more flowering shrubs and mini trees. I've got a ladybird house, sort of natural predator. Ladybirds are basically great at controlling aphids, so it's really good to attract them to your garden. And another plant that I really wanted to show you around. So this is a hellebore, really pretty. It was given to me for my birthday in December, and basically it hasn't stopped flowering ever since, and it doesn't look like it's going to anytime soon. And again, really loved by pollinators, and flowers throughout the whole winter, so it's always there to provide food for early emerging pollinators. So if you can get hold of it, it's quite easily found in any garden centres. You can order it online. It's called hellebore. Really recommend it. And it's a perennial plant, will grow every year and will spread slightly. Looks really pretty. I hope you agree. One thing I also wanted to show you really quickly: when you tidy up your gardens in autumn, don't do it too thoroughly, because it's really important to leave some stems, dry stems, for any insects to hide. Even now, some of the insects like to live in the hollow stems and sort of dry organic matter. So it's really important that you don't tidy up too much. In the summer you can, but especially in autumn, don't trim everything too much, because otherwise you're depriving insects from hibernating places. Right, moving on. I don't want to make this video too long, and there's quite a few things that I want to show you around, especially the pond. Shrubs. The reason why these are important, especially in this garden where we've got gravel, which can get quite hot in the summer, and we know we've got amphibians in this pond. I'll talk to you about it in a minute. But these cascading shrubs and rocks, they provide shade, as you can see, and hiding spaces for insects, but also for amphibians. When we created these flower beds, we made sure there's lots of hiding spaces for amphibians and insects to either hide under during hot weather, hide from predators, and also hibernate. So lots of gaps. Make sure there's lots of hiding places in your garden, especially if you don't have a lawn. And now moving on to my favourite feature of the garden. I'm going to sit down because I'm out of breath now. I like to think a lovely pond, and this pond was created about a year ago. We dug it ourselves. It's about maybe 90 centimeters, not far off, 90 centimeters deep in the deepest place where the lily plants are resting. In a sort of medium depth is about 50 centimeters, and marginal sort of shelving where most of the plants are resting is about 10 to 20 centimeters. It supports wide range of wildlife, even though it's been in place for just over a year. It was really easy to do. It took us around our full-time jobs. It took us, just two of us, probably under 2 weeks, and it already supports wide range of wildlife. We've got some newts in there. We haven't got frogs yet, but I've counted 9 newts the other day. There are dragonfly nymphs, lots of diving beetles, water striders, which just about started showing now because it's still quite early in the day and it's been quite cold today. Lots of snails, lots of invertebrates. It really is full of wildlife, and it's absolutely lovely to sit here and listen to the bird song and watch the wildlife, especially in the afternoon when the newts become a bit cheeky. Now it's their breeding season and you can really see them swimming about. So I really recommend digging a pond, even if I would say this is a medium pond, if you don't have space and you can see I haven't got a large garden, and I still managed to put a medium pond in, which is incredibly rewarding. I don't know if you can see, there is a water boatman there on the surface. I'm not quite sure you're going to be able to see that, but you can see the water is very clear. It doesn't take up a lot of maintenance, even though it's in a sunny spot with a wide range of different plants, and a use of barley straw, which it's a natural way of suppressing blanket weed. It's a fairly easy to maintain pond. It really is very rewarding. And obviously I couldn't go to the garden centre to buy more plants for the pond this year, but someone's given me advice. Let's try, hopefully I won't fall in. I've thrown in some watercress that I managed to get in the supermarket when I went to do my shop before we actually got locked down. And you can see it's already rooting. And this is, oh, I forgot already, watercress. Watercress, it's fantastic. You just throw it in and it will root itself. But what it does, it removes nutrients from the water, excess nutrients, which means it suppresses algae growth. So great for keeping your water clean in your pond without any pump or anything like that. Right, so I think that's about the pond. Again, there is some cascading shrubs I'll show you around in a minute, just to provide extra shelter for these amphibians and insects that live in the pond in case they want to come out and hibernate. Lots of rocky hiding places and lots of vegetation, especially that we don't have the lawn. Yep, okay. Right, I'm aware now this video is getting a little bit long, so I'm going to get on with it and show you the last bit of the garden. So that's just a sitting area for us to enjoy with a pizza oven and a barbecue and a fire pit. But the most important feature of this part of the garden is Logget, which is our guardian of the compost. So basically Logget is a bit of a step up from a log pile that we recommend people have in the garden for insects to hide under. But I just wanted to be a little bit creative, and then if you think you would like a log pile in your garden, because there are huge benefits for wildlife from having a log pile, but you want to be a little bit more creative with your, for example, with your kids or with your family, you can create a log man. That would add a little bit of character to your garden. But what Logget is guarding is a compost heap. So again, gives me somewhere where I can put my trimmings and cuttings, but also provides excellent habitat for wide range of insects. While the waste is slowly biodegrading, we don't add any food in here, it's just basically whatever we've got in the garden. So it doesn't smell at all, but while it slowly biodegrades, it creates a little bit of heat underneath, so insects like to hibernate underneath, and I believe the amphibians, probably the newts we've got in the pond, hibernate under as well. So yes, really recommend having a compost heap, and you can see it's nicely hidden. It's an area where we sit and eat and you wouldn't even notice it. So yeah. Right, okay, so that's probably it. I'm out of breath now. I hope I inspired you to implement at least one or two of the wildlife-friendly actions here. Please feel free to ask any questions. I'm quite lucky that I haven't got many limitations in this garden, so I've got the luxury of implementing lots of wildlife-friendly actions. However, I'm aware not everyone has the same circumstances, and everyone will have a different spaces to play around with. But even if you just have a balcony, you can plant some of the flowers I recommended